For sure.
Monty, with the Solidarity program, obviously you guys worked up towards SA Champs. And then where did, I have to ask this, where did the Solidarity team finish out of the interprovincial competition?
Oh, how amazing.
Finished third.
Third out of 7 teams on equal footing. How fantastic.
No,
and
phenomenal.
Then one of our teams did 7th, yes. Yeah.
That really, really,
they were
super.
just amazing.
No,
yes.
I was...
Sorry, one of our other riders, Eddie, also won one of the consolidation classes.
Yeah.
So yeah, very proud of him as well.
I think it's also just been so. I had I coached Bonga Gumbo, who was one of the other Solidarity riders, and I have to tell you, Bongs has been riding for 3 years. He also started with show jumping. I think it's much more interesting for most people, and I was just, I have to be honest, like the whole thing for me was quite. I don't know your experience of it, Monty. Shep, looking at your teammates who are maybe less experienced, than you are. I found it quite a soulful experience that kind of really reignited my appreciation for the sport, and like Bongs would say things like, I said to him at one stage, your horse could be slightly more generous to you. And he said, no, I need to ride better. Then he will be more generous. And it was such a lovely, like there's a lovely, humble, like fresh reminder of what the sport is for so many people. But I've totally lost my train of thought where I was going to go with Bongs. Bongs finished 5th, but I can tell you that the achievement for Bongs, and this is where dressage is such, I always say to people, you're not competing for a rosette. I've won many rosettes and still been unhappy with my horse or myself, and have not won rosettes and been thrilled with my horse. It's a very introspective sport. But Bongs' success, I must tell you, Monty, is he went down that championship day and he rode a flawless test from memory. And for someone who has struggled with show nerves, and I can say this was the generosity of some of the show venues. I know that Kailami Park and Angie Meredith at Eaton Farm allowed him to do, having not really competed that much, they each sponsored him a show at each of their venues to go to. Obviously, Christelle had to take the horse and get it there, but for him to get over those arena nerves, and just and practice that a bit. So I think also looking, and I know you've got these reports that you've submitted now to Solidarity over the weekend. I think the progress is not always in Shep's. I mean, you just knocked it out the park, Shep. That's just ridiculous. Coming second in the championship. It's just seeing that you've given these riders access to resources that many people in the equestrian community take for total granted, and they've really done something with it. They've all made these massive steps.
So what I found, because they don't have years of experience in the dressage league as such, day one, even Chef, he will tell you the nerves did get the better of them. He placed 5th, which was great, but as the show progressed through it, by the championship class and consolidation class, the riders' marks were all up between 8 and 10%, and they all just relaxed and just rode. And through just the show, how they developed just at the show was phenomenal for me. And if they get given more opportunities, which DSA have agreed to, one show every single month, they just have to do the application. How fantastic. They will continue to develop through the sport. In 2023, we're not just going, okay, we're done and dusted, goodbye. They will continue, which is fantastic. And there's Chef, who got reserve novice champion. I mean, that's how you progress through the show. Yeah. It's outstanding. You rode that test. I think everybody just stopped and held their breath, and it was like a 0.1.
Yeah, it was very close.
Very close one.
It was very close to Missy Morgan, who's a fantastic rider. Seasoned rider working with an international coach on an imported horse, and that for me is where I say, like, this is such an unequal sport. And there's her name is Gabrielle. She was on the Joe Rogan podcast. She's an American volleyball player. And Joe Rogan says to her, what sport is your daughter into? And she said, my daughter likes the worst sport. And I immediately knew what she was going to say. And she was like, dressage, it's so stupid. And he was like, why? And she was like, Joe, imagine if you could go and buy a better surfboard or a better volleyball. And then you know, and that is how the sport sometimes does feel. And just by leveling the playing field slightly, we're always on an unlevel playing field, you know, but you can make it up. And Monty, you guys made it up with access to training and giving owners a call to action. You know, it's very easy for me to say now on the podcast, owners, you have to grow your staff. You have to, you know, and I do believe that in any business, you know, people don't quit bad jobs, they quit bad bosses. So, it's true. So how are you going to, you know, like, how are we going to grow the sport and motivate your staff and keep people interested in? But when you had a firm call to action like this, you know, now we're working towards something. It made it so easy for people to go, yeah, and the atmosphere at the show was fantastic. You know, it was such a vibe. You guys were amazing, running around with your flags. It was great. It was really fantastic.